Oh, I had to get all the Belichick shit out of me.
Yeah.
Oh, you never want to start the old podcast off with Hawk and a loogie.
No, that's generally a bad idea. That is a good point.
Speaking of Hawk and shit, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of all ages, Geeks Worldwide Radio and the Dork Shared Universe proudly presents to you the greatest. And Nick, I don't mean to undersell this or oversell this. In fact, I never undersell it. I always oversell it, but with damn good reason, the greatest podcasting team in the world. He's the comic book writer, Nick Friar. I am the Kidney Stone King, and together we are the TLDR Comic Book Club, baby. Did you get what I meant there by Hawkins?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you are. Oh, yes, and we are, in fact, the least hydrated podcast in the DSG. Can confirm that. Quick reminder for everybody. I am doing well. Thank you for asking, Joe. Yes, good job drinking your water. Make sure everybody stays hydrated while you're watching or listening to the podcast. And if you're watching and you don't generally just listen to the show, make sure you also subscribe to one of our audio channels, because you never know when we're going to have a Friar Side chat. And that's the only place you can find a Friar Side chat is on our audio channel. So we're talking Apple, Spotify, Geeks Worldwide Radio, Amazon, Pocket Cast, all the major podcasting platforms. The only place you'll find our conversations with creators across the industry are on our audio channel. So make sure you're subscribed to at least one of those channels there. Leave a 5-star rating and review, or the highest rating that you can leave. Otherwise, you're going to learn the real meaning of Backcracker. And I would say normally that you guys would ruin his weekend if you don't leave a 5-star rating and review. But I'm going to ruin his friggin' week, because Joe has to answer for some crimes. But
before you lay into me, Nicholas, at least fucking allow me to apologize first.
I was actually going to ask you if you want to apologize first.
Yeah, well, kind of. We'll see. We'll see where I'm going.
Oh boy!
Right? And if I abruptly leave, that means I'm passing a stone, and I'll sound like Kramer from the other room, and you'll hear me 3 blocks away. But I have a mea culpa. Doc pulled a couple of boners this past weekend. It's unrelated to the kidney stone. But the first one. So we'll peek behind the curtain. I generally will ask Nick Friday, Saturday or so, what book he's going to do for the main line, so I can start to, put out get ready the social media stuff, the Photoshops that I do. And so I actually did a Thursday night this week, because I was feeling, extra motivated. And he said, "Oh, I think I'm going to do this book." And then at some point we had a conversation because some news dropped about a certain Tim Seeley book that you'll be talking about in a little bit, about getting picked up for a TV show.
Yes, correct.
Yep. And you said, "I think I'm going to do that." Or you said, "I'm going to talk about it." And so in my mind, I didn't realize you meant you were going to talk about that this week, because I'm assuming a lot you had to read, and that you were going to talk about it at some point. So I went ahead, made the Photoshop, and put it out on the socials that you'll be discussing Bloodrick this week. You are, in fact, not. You are discussing the Tim Seeley book that I mentioned. So I put that. So for those getting excited about Bloodrick, I apologize, Nick. I'm assuming you're still going to talk about it on the show at some point.
Right? I will. That will. Okay. I will make that a priority to be the next one up on the list. And honestly, Joe, you don't really got to apologize for that. Confusion. Well, it happens. You're trying to, and Joe's trying to do a new thing for social, and I respect all that. So happens.
Right. So it happens. I made a video. It was fucking awesome, but we'll get there. So the next one, Nicholas. Now, again, what I will say is 3 things. 3 things.
Everybody get your notebooks out.
One. I tend to get excited. And I'm known, as the fisherman, right? When we do our chats, because I'm always fishing for free ship.
Is that point 2?
No.
Okay.
So when a certain someone, went on social and said, "Hey, would you like an advanced copy of this book? It's coming out soon." I jumped on it. Yes. Gimme. And then I made a kick-ass video about
it. You did.
Okay. 2, you knew what you signed up for. You hitched your star to this wagon, buddy. Right. So that comes with all the awesomeness and the forgetfulness. Right. That is all part of the package. What I tell my wife, amongst other things. She hitched her star to this wagon. All right. You break it, you bought it, kind of thing, right?
Tuukka Rask over here with a Swiss cheese brain,
right? Oh, jeez. I make Gronkowski look like a goddamn Mensa candidate. And then 3, if you call dibs on a book, like so far in advance, right? I can't be expected to remember that shit. So, Heartpiercer issue 1 is dropping this week. We're going to discuss it a little bit. I already put a video out because I was excited about it. This is a book coming. I got an advanced copy. I even talked to Rich on DMs, brag, and he was excited. I was excited. It might be one of my better videos yet. I'm getting really good at this now with the extra lighting. And you were like, oh yeah, by the way, I had called dibs on that. So I apologize. It's not the first time, Nicholas, that one of us has called dibs on a book that the other one has also read the first issue. It happened with 7 Secrets. There might have been another book or 2 where it's happened. And, I won't read any further, but I'm not entirely to be blamed here for this.
Okay, so you're going to throw the 7 Secrets. The other one is, I know that you're thinking of.
No.
I know the other one you're thinking of is. No, is this place not the other one? That was because that one I read it and then you called dibs. That is different. That is different,
right? That is different. Now I know you're gonna throw the good Asian in my face.
No, I didn't even think of that. Oh my god, I forgot. That's right. No. I was saying like that's what I thought you were referring to is the instances where I've read a book beforehand and then I don't call dibs and then you take dibs. That happens.
That happens. That's fine. There
are times where I like the book and I didn't like it as much as you did, so I don't call dibs, or maybe I don't like it, and that happens. Yes, but I like this. We have a document for this shit now because of the good Asian situation. No, you had your moment. You had your moment.
I can't, always check documents.
You can't read. Yes, yeah. Well, it's very hard to do. I understand. And then what was my other point in all this? I called dibs in January.
Well, see, here's
the whole thing. Here's what's going to happen, okay? Because you fucked up on this one. I don't want dibs on this. I read it. We're not doing that because that defeats the whole purpose of the show. We both love the issue.
Oh, no. I don't know where it's going to go.
This is what's happening.
Don't play martyr with me, buddy.
No, I'm not playing martyr. I'm getting my payback. Okay, you didn't read that. You weren't going to read this book because it had bird shit on the cover. Not like bird shit. Like you're afraid of birds, and that were featured on the cover, and you saw them obviously in the title. So your reconciliation for this is you're reading at least the first issue of The Sacrificer in full. No questions asked.
Okay, fine. I can live with that.
Okay, you have to do that because you're all terrified of birds. Then you did this, so you're reading that at least the first issue. Okay. And I feel like I'm being.
You know what, Nick? I'll do you one better. I'll read this series.
Boom. All right, there we go. Now I know what you're doing for the next trade.
Well, no! Don't make me have to. No! You got to stop creating my content. I promise you, I will read it. I will read it in full and I will discuss it. But the next trade would be issue 100, Nicholas.
Yeah, this is
so don't.
Well, this is very true. Yes, we have a lot planned here, and I know we had a listener reach out to us about ideas, and we are still working through it. It was a good idea, one that you and I had talked about. So please, if anybody has other ideas, we don't know. Like right now, we've been on a trajectory to like hit that by the end of the month. I wouldn't be stunned if we don't hit that by the end. I wouldn't
be surprised now if we don't hit it for another 4 months.
Yes, there is a reasonable chance that is the case. So just keep that in mind, everybody. So please send any ideas if you have something that you want us to do.
But thus concludes another segment of Doc's Boners.
Yes, that was yeah, exactly. All right, let's get to catching up. We both got a lot that we've been catching up on. We both caught up on Little Black Book issue 3. Awesome.
Yeah. Let me do this because I want you to go last here on catching up. Mm-hmm. Okay. So as you just mentioned, Little Black Book issue 3 again, man. McComsey knows how to end on a perfect fucking cliffhanger, man. Yep. This has been an absolutely excellent series. I dare I say again, I'm putting this up there for contention for Book of the Year.
Yeah, excellent. It's going to be one of those trades that you pick this up and you're going to finish it real fucking quick. Like this real quick. So fast. Also, another book that I got cucked on. So, but that was your fault.
That's what happens when you call dibs 8 months in advance on something.
I just have a really good feel. I don't know what to say, but what else you catch up on?
Transformers issue 8 again, fantastic. When the Blood Has Dried, issue 1. I'm going to talk about this in a little bit more detail later on because the second issue dropped this week.
Nice.
But Nicholas, you caught up on something, baby.
Yes, I am finally completely caught up on Something Is Killing the Children.
Let's go!
Honestly, it's a sin that it took me this long to fully catch up on it. And because I think this may be the best book you've ever talked about on the show. I feel pretty comfortable in saying that there are so many cool characters, amazing world building across the board. And I'm just like, oh God, like once I read the issue 36, I was like, now I got to fucking wait like everybody else does. What the fuck, dude?
Right. But the last arc before this newest one just kicked off.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
It's some of the best stuff that we've gotten. Period. Like it's somehow 36 issues in. I mean, we're 4 years into this, right? And it just keeps getting better. So you can see why I'm really excited for this next arc and this sort of series of one-off stories, because you know that it's going to what its purpose is. It's giving you some more information. It's telling these sort of one-off stories, but you know it's going to end in such a fashion that when it kicks off the next arc and what they have planned, it's really going to knock your friggin' socks off.
Yeah, and like Tynan said at C2E2, next year is going to be the big year for like the longtime readers like yourself, and obviously I'm all caught up, so I'm sitting there waiting in a similar position. I will say, like after binging it all and then getting to 36, I was like, I need the Cutter stuff. Like I need to like what's going on with all that? Like because she's nuts, dude.
Right?
Oh my
Maybe
God.
one of the greatest villains ever.
Yeah, dude. Her and Erica Slaughter, like what a pair. Wow.
Yeah. Just that was something else.
What Cutter is vicious, dude. And there are some like Erica Slaughter is an awesome character, but like the images that may like stand out to me the most may be from that final arc and what Werther Dell'Edera did with Cutter. There are just some panels and pages where she just takes over. Like she may not even be on the full page. She may just be on a panel, but that one image will just take over. She is just a monstrous figure. It's so good. If anybody has taken as long as I have to read this, like just trust me. Like I am like blown away that it took me this long to catch up.
Me too. But I'm glad you did, Nicholas. I am glad that you did.
Friggin' amazing. All right. Now speaking of calling dibs on things early, I actually have an early look for us this week. A book that I called dibs on months ago, a Dark Horse title, Kill All Immortals. The FOC on this is June 3rd. The release date is July 10th. The writer on this is Zach Kaplan, who we've mentioned quite a bit of late because he is the writer for Beyond Real. And then the other reason that I called dibs on this when I saw it, not just because of the cover that I saw, but Fico Ossio is the interior artist on this series. And I love his work. He is a very talented artist, and you see that right away. You're reminded of that right away as you read this issue. Tiago Rocha is the colorist, and then the letterer is, of course, Hassan Othman Alao. But man, action is awesome in this right off the rip. And like the big thing is like it's I didn't realize this before I read this, but then I was doing a little research afterwards. The pitch for this, Joe, is Succession meets John Wick. And I didn't need that, but now I see it. Like it's awesome. And if you're a fan of like Viking stuff too, you're going to want to check this out. So put it on your pull list. It's again, June 3rd is the FOC. It'll be out on July 10th. I absolutely love the first issue, and I had really high expectations. I've been itching for this for quite some time.
I know the old saying is don't judge a book by its cover, but the covers for this book are fucking fantastic.
Yes. Spot on.
Dude. I'm so pissed that I won't get a chance to read this until it comes out in July. Oh, jeez, right? It could be 2025 by the time I get a chance to read this one because it looks and sounds fantastic.
This is one that I like based off the first issue. I expect talking about as soon as it's done because
you talk about having FOMO all the time when we call dibs. I've got serious FOMO.
Good. It's a good sign when that happens for both of us, as much as it's not fun. But we do this for the people. So Joe, with that, it's time to talk about the new comics hitting shelves this week. Start us off with Marvel as you do, please.
Okay, so from Marvel, we have Ultimate X-Men issue 3. Is anything hotter than X-Men right now, by the way?
No. I mean,
How
this is
effing good has the X-Men 97 been? I mean, it might be as close to perfect television as I can think of.
Wes and I are going to be talking about it on Change My Mind, as I'm sure Dork and Mac and Goo will be as well when the finale comes around. But Wes and I said it like this won't be lower than a 90. Like no matter how it has to have like a miserable ending, but like it's going into that like this is a 90 minimum.
Right, but they've done nothing to make you think that that's coming because
No.
even like the episodes that haven't been like here's the thing. One eight episodes, perfect. It's nice and tight, but there's a lot of times where you get 6, 7, or 8 issue, eight episode long shows, and there's a filler episode here or a filler episode there, and you're like, ugh. And so like those are signs that maybe they're gonna let you down with the finale. That hasn't been the case here. There hasn't been any filler. It's all been just like this perfect continuation, this perfect build up. I can't.
Yeah,
I
and
can't
what
put
I'm really pumped about too is the whole Bastion bit because we talked about it when we had Gu on before Bastion came out. Like we were like this could happen. Like we didn't think it necessarily would because like Sinister's at the forefront and so much like there's like this tendency to have like these characters that are people like are super familiar with. There's like a level of apprehension that can come with like introducing a new character, be it a villain or a hero, but they went and did it. So I was pumped. Like we were right. Like this is where they're going to go. The title kind of indicated that was the case with the last 3 episodes. So I was pretty pumped that we got that right.
Yeah, you got that right, not me. My guess was more Galactus and Nimrod. But Nimrod,
we're a team, Joe. Take the win as a team.
Okay. I'm like I feel like I'm Luke Cornett here, just along for the ride.
Hey man, you get a ring, you get a ring. Doesn't matter.
I'll tell you what, I am horny for corny. That man is awesome. Right. Right. I love Luke Cornett. Anyways, we have Miles Morales Spider-Man issue 20. Doom issue 1. Oh, I meant to get to this one. Fuck. Because it's written by it's Hickman writing it. So the last there was a Doom series that came out a few years ago. I can't remember who wrote it. It was excellent. So I can't wait for this one. I meant to read it for today. The other one I meant to get to too was X-Men Forever issue 4, written by Kieran Gillen, right?
Yep.
I believe it. Just read that one up. The Amazing Spider-Man Blood Hunt issue 1, Carnage issue 7, Miss Marvel Mutant Menace issue 3, Weapon X-Men issue 4, What If Venom issue 4, Wolverine Madripoor Knights issue 4. A lot of issue 4s this week. Holy smokes.
Real quick on the Wolverine note too. I saw that the new Wolverine writer is the current Daredevil writer. I'm blanking on his name, but that's
Ahmad Saladin.
Yes, it looks like he's gonna be taking over Wolverine.
Interesting. So that answers our question from before, from last week. Okay. All right. I'm down. We have Mace Windu issue 4. We have Venom Separation Anxiety issue 1. Alien Black, White, and Blood issue 4. Aliens What If issue 3. And The Amazing Spider-Man issue 47.
From DC, we got Action Comics 1065, Green Lantern issue 11, Batman and Robin issue 9, which Joe is reading, Blue Beetle issue 9, Red Hood The Hill issue 4, which I got to catch up on, but again, like I was a little let down with the way the first couple issues went. Suicide Squad Dream Team issue 3, Outsiders issue 7, Batman Dylan Dog issue 3, Sinister Sons issue 4, Looney Tunes 278, and Batman and Robin and Howard issue 3.
Howard. If you ever watched The Big Bang Theory,
wow. Oh, I didn't know you were a big Bang guy.
No, I'm not. I mean, I've seen it. I'm not a huge Big Bang guy, not like Billy is. But I've seen it.
I heard that's the next the Pineapple Boys. That's what you guys are doing next.
No, we got Rizzoli and Isles next. Come on, man. Again, don't create my content for me, okay? So next up from Image and Skybound, this is something rare, Nick. This is something rare. There's more books this week from Image and Skybound than there has been in some time. But not a ton. Now there is a book on here that I absolutely fucking love, and I can't wait to talk about. But not a ton that really like blew us away, or books that we're generally reading in general. So we have Spawn issue 353. We have Redcoat issue 2. I read the first issue. I think I liked it more than you did. Second issue, third issue is going to be make or break for me, I think. Right?
Yeah.
There was a lot going on. It felt a little too jam packed, and there was a lot of narration. So the pace of it was a little, but there's still some interesting stuff in there. So the third issue is really going to make or break it for me.
When I read the Ghost Machine bit, like the little sampler in there, I was like, like, okay, like I see the potential, like I'm excited for the potential, but I just wasn't sure. And then I read the first issue, and I was like,
yeah,
it just didn't move me. But anyways,
yeah, Ice Cream Man issue or Ice Cream Man issue 39, The Walking Dead Deluxe issue 89, G.I. Joe: A Real American Issue issue 306, Fish Flies issue 6. Awesome. I can't wait to talk. This is a Jeff Lemire joint. I can't wait to talk about this on the program. Absolutely love it. This was a great issue. Dark Ride issue 12. Did you read Rat City issue 2, Nicholas?
no, I didn't care for the first issue.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
I will say Dark Ride is something that I've been wanting to check out. I just haven't made the time. I feel like, obviously it's going like there's got like, so
it's got a lot of praise. I think this is both one that just sort of, I think we both sort of had intentions of reading and just sort of like, because we read so much, just kind of, got away from us. But that is definitely one of us should check out. Something Epic issue 10, Napalm Lullaby issue 3. So I read the first issue. I was intrigued. I read the second issue. I texted you. I said, I think I'm out. Because it was getting a little too sort of preachy for me, like we talk about this all the time. You're more into some of the more religious elements of stories than I am. That's not to say I don't like Archangel 8, Sacrament, love those books.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes when they get a little too preachy, I that's when I can kind of dip a little bit. But the way the third issue ended, Nicholas, I think it kind of pulled me back in. I don't know if it's like a book I'm like, I'm gonna, talk about TLDR, right? But like, the way it ended, I was like, okay, let's give it one more shot, Joseph. And the way the third one ended, I said, you know what? Okay, I'm definitely gonna read issue 4 now.
Wow.
Right. So like it's just funny how like things can, books can do that. Like, not to give up too early, because you might end up missing on something that it might be potentially a really great story. So like the second issue definitely like had me wavering, but the third issue, the way it ended, I was like, oh, okay. And it sort of brought back the elements from the first issue that really kind of pulled me in.
That's interesting. Okay.
We have The Weatherman issue 5, The Cabinet issue 4, Saint Mercy Godland issue 2, and then we have a number 1 from a friend of the show.
Yeah, Monolith issue 1, which you heard about from Sean Lewis a little while back. And this is another like Spawn character in the whole Spawn universe and everything. Got a ton, like even more titles coming out of Spawn's universe. And of course, I'm a Spawn guy. I did check this out. The art in it is awesome, and conceptually, it seems pretty cool. I sometimes the third person narration doesn't always hit me quite how I guess in the best way. So that's kind of my little hang up here. But I do think that if you're a Spawn fan, it's something that's worth checking out. And again, like the art, like there's no shortage of action. Like Sean loves to go nuts in Spawn's universe. He really does a good job of making full use of that and making these books feel like a hard R. And just like there's one specific sequence that happens in this. It's like, fuck, man, like that shit was crazy. So he pushes the limits.
And this is a 3-issue series, correct?
This is a 3-issue series. Yeah. So
okay.
Then from AWA, we got the return of a title that was on pause for a little bit that you have dibs on. Shocker.
Yeah, shocker, right? If it's AWA, I'm gonna do my absolute damnedest, except for Ribbon Queen, to call dibs.
You got some rough reading ahead of you between the Ribbon Queen and Sacrifice.
I know.
Oh boy,
smokes. But that's You and I issue 4. I've absolutely loved this series right from the beginning. Again, you know how I feel about AWA people, right? Like they just haven't missed. And so I've talked about this series and sort of the main character from the beginning. Like, he's got this incredible sort of superpower where he's it's almost like Wolverine, right? Where he can heal and he's got super strength and all that, but he's just really optimistic character. He sees the world through rose-colored glasses, right? Literally, figuratively and literally. Like, the beautiful thing about the art in this is that, like, his panels where he's talking, or like you just seeing it from his point of view, everything is beautiful. Like, everything is brighter, right? The art goes from the art style in this is not necessarily gritty. Can you just pull up the artist for me? I'm drawing up like a blank, and I don't want to not give the artist credit here, because it's absolutely brilliant. And so, like, you have that contrast because you see it, like, you see the world from the regular character, from all the other characters' eyes, and then you see it from his perspective, and it's just like, it's such an awesome touch. And what we get in this issue is, like, this is a very pivotal issue because we learn a lot about you and his past. We learn why he's Mike Choi. Thank you, as the artist. Brilliant. He just an absolutely brilliant job, drawing this book. But we get some really important nuggets about his past. He's starting to what he thinks remember about his past is. We get the nugget. We get what the U stands for, which, oh my god, blew my mind. But then just the story in general, how it's paced, how it's plotted, how it's moving forward. The antagonists in this are they're right done pissed off, and they're going to stop at nothing. And it was an absolute brilliant issue. This has been a great series, and so I can't recommend it, and can't wait to talk about it enough.
Nice. Yeah, I'm excited to check this one out when you after you finally talk about it, because it seems like it's an experience that we haven't, like, you and I, not to, pardon the pun, but we haven't experienced like elsewhere.
Yeah. I mean, just the writing and the art, it's brilliant all around.
Awesome. All right, we got Boom. Quite a few titles that are on our list. We have House of Slaughter, issue 23, Briar, issue 5, I Heart Skull Crusher, issue 3, and then a pair of titles that we are both reading. Where do you want to start with these?
Let's start with the Displaced, Nicholas.
Yeah. So the Displaced issue 4. This is like, this was one of the more uncomfortable issues yet. This is absolutely the most uncomfortable issue. Like, it gets very like dark, and you can kind of see where things are headed. And honestly, if they go in that direction, then like, great. Like, it totally makes sense for the story. But I could see Brisson, maybe twisting things around in some way, shape, or form. It's such a well done series that it doesn't matter. But I was like, after I read this, I was like, God, that got really, like, this has been a dark series by and large, but it's very grim by the end of the 4th issue.
Yeah, and there's been stakes. I mean, like, throughout the series, right? Especially in the first issue, like, what happens when everything gets displaced, right? And the people that were sort of caught in that aren't remembered, and so, like, there's been real stakes. But this issue in particular, the characters really test the boundaries and limits, so to speak, of what the crazy old man had been telling them.
Yep.
And the way this one ends, like, it was definitely dark, and uncomfortable, but the way this one ends, it's just like, whew,
yeah,
man, like, where is this story going and how's it going to wrap up? That is so intriguing and fascinating to me. I can't excuse me, wait to see where it goes.
Yeah, it's again one of the best. Like, this, the first quarter of 2024 has been great for comic book readers, and this is part of that. So it's been an awesome year so far, and obviously we're excited for what else is coming. But I'm assuming the 5th issue is the final issue. That's the only one, the last one I'm seeing on League of Comic Geeks. And unfortunately, this is one where it makes sense if this were to end. But I could see where, like, it's like, oh no, this could happen again. Or you could just like tell a similar story. I don't know, but I'm loving the Displaced. Anyways, the other title that we got from Boom this week is from friend of the show, Tony Fleece, and Dave Wachter, which, by the way, you've been saying his name right the whole time. I'm the one that's fucked it up. Uncanny Valley, issue 2. And Joe, I'm reading this, and it's like, I can hear the zany music and the sound effects in my head as I'm friggin' reading this thing.
Yeah, and the best part too, right? Because again, what's beautiful and brilliant is there's all these sort of different styles of art in here, right? Sort of drawing. It's like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit sort of thing, right? And
Great point.
the scene with the grandfather and the grandson sitting in the car, and the kid's like, well, why can like you should stick out like a sore thumb. You're a cartoon character. And the grandfather says, well, pinch your nose and blow. Right. And we get like just this brief, like the kid going from sort of a realish, look to him to slightly cartoony. And it was excellent. And that's what's been really, really fun about this, is that not only do you get the different, the art styles from Wechter, but like you get that zaniness, you get some of that Looney Tunes, Wile E. Coyote, type of like hijinks, right? Like in the first issue, when the kids all sort of jump off the bridge, right? 3 of them just kind of smack and hit the ground, but he goes through the ground. It shows you, it shows you that he went into the ground, like Wile E. Coyote, sort of, jumping off or falling off a cliff, stuff like that. So, while like there's this fun zaniness to the art, the story itself is excellent, and it's a little, I don't know if dark is the right word, right? But it's like it's not a happy-go-lucky story,
No,
which is
it's not.
awesome. And I love that you got that contrast with the various art styles.
Yeah, and in the way, like, getting to know the grandpa in this issue, and we get kind of the lay of the land, but like you kind of hinted at it already. Like the grandfather talks about like how he's able to just exist, and but yeah, I really enjoyed this, and this sold out. I think the first issue sold out. So I'm assuming there's second prints out there in the wild. If not, if you could make sure you get those. Get this. This has been so much fun. Yeah, I think like we already talked about it quite a bit with Wachter. Like this is a great chance for like any artist to really show off, and he's really like stepping up in this moment.
Yeah, we got to get him on the show too. We already planted the seed to have him and Tony on to talk about this sort of, as either the first arc starts to wrap up or right around with the first trade, because he was awesome to talk to. Man,
What
he
a
was
nice guy.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just so cool talking a little bit about his process and him working, his history working with Tony and all that. So this is a great series. So if you can get your hands on some second prints of the first issue, do it. This is a really, really kick-ass series.
Yeah, a lot of fun. What about from Dark Horse, Joe? What do we got?
So from a Dark Horse, okay, so we have Masters of the Universe Revolution issue 1, and then we have the book, Nicholas, that I still want you to have dibs, okay? Because I think this book deserves to be talked about on the program.
Interesting.
And so yes, I read the first issue, and it was excellent. And that's Heartpiercer issue 1. And this is written by Rich Douek, and the artist is
Gavin Smith.
Gavin Smith. Yes, I've typed his name a ton of times, so you'd think I would have remembered that by now. Such a great first issue. Like,
yeah,
holy shit! Like, I've talked about Rich Douek's book. We've talked about his books on the show before. He is an excellent writer, and he's normally paired with Hayden Sherman. No, not Hayden Sherman.
Alex Cormack.
Alex Cormack. I was going to say, in my head, I had Cormac McCarthy. I always wondered if I can do that.
Darth Vader,
right? Alex Cormack. And so we know how bananas his art style gets, right? And just the two of them are such a great pair. But Gavin's art in this with rich storytelling was tremendous.
I couldn't agree more. Like that, like I specifically was like, he's a great artist for like a high, like making cool looking high fantasy characters. But then there's like the action like that he brings to this dude. I was thinking about it specifically towards the end of it. I was looking at it again and I was like, damn, like the characters move so well and it's so impressive. And it's just, yes, like Gavin Smith, wasn't familiar with your game before, but like now I am.
And even right off the rip, Atala, I believe is the main character's name. And there's a scene with her and a unicorn, and
yeah, God,
that was so wildly and wonderfully vicious.
Yep,
it set the tone for the book, and sort of what unfolds after that, and then the way it ends. man, this is going to be no doubt it's going to be an absolutely excellent series. So I'm glad I got to read the first issue. But now I'm going to be in major FOMO because I have a taste, Nicholas. But I do want you to finish reading because you need to talk about this book. Needs to be talked about on the show.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, part of me wanted to let you stew in the guilt. That was my whole thing, but I can tell that you won't be able to handle
I
that.
stew in enough fucking guilt. You don't need to talk about.
Okay. But yeah, Heart Piercer is definitely something you guys want to be checking out. This is some cool friggin' shit. All right, I'm going to take us through a couple of these other ones, Joe, because I know you got 2 more books that you want to get to. From Titan, we got Gun Honey Collision Course issue 1, which I know you've been staying on top of Gun Honey,
and I'll be getting the naughty covers too. You can bet your bottom dollar on that.
Of course. From Dynamite, we got Gargoyles Quest issue 2, Hercules issue 2, and Darkwing Duck Justice Ducks.
Not Negaduck?
Nope, not Negaduck, apparently, not according to your notes. And then we got 2 titles from Mad Cave, both of which you wanted to touch upon. So I'll let you, dealer's choice here.
Okay, so this first one I called dibs on. And so I mentioned this last week, right? Like 2024, man, we're now 5.5 months in, and it's been maybe one of the best starts to any year, maybe the best start to a year that I can remember.
Because we were doing the show, at least,
right? Yeah. And Mad Cave is not a studio, not a publisher that we have talked a ton about, but just like IDW has and Dark Horse has, they're cranking out some tremendous books that we don't want anyone to miss. Mm-hmm. And Sanction issue 1. So we get their review copies a little bit differently than we get, from everyone else's. We usually get them week to week. Mad Cave is sort of, we give them to us at the start of the month. Anyways, I saw this and said, okay, I'm gonna give it a go. Loved it. I called dibs on it right away, and you were kind of meh on it.
So this is like an old,
or I shouldn't say meh, but wasn't your cup of tea.
Old Nick showed up on this one. Okay. And old Nick as a kid with comics was like, oh, if I see this style of art on the cover, I expect to see this style of art on the interior. And obviously Dan Panosian, I know he wasn't the artist on this series, but he drew that cover, and it's like, that is just like epic. That is I might be an all-time Dan Panosian cover for me. It was so fucking cool. So I absolutely want to check it out. But when I looked at it, I was like, I just when I saw the art, it was like so much of a jump for me that I just I couldn't get into it in that moment. So I looked at a couple pages and I was like, maybe I'll come back to it. And then you called dibs on it, so that's on me.
Yeah. So Sanction issue 1. This is from Mad Cave Studios. It's written by Ray Fox with art by Antonio Fuso, colors by Emilio Lecce, and letters by Dave Sharp. So number 1's Mad Cave. Okay, they're now in the rotation. A number 1 for Mad Cave comes out. We're gonna read it, and so it takes place in Russia, and it's right in my wheelhouse, Nicholas, because it is a murder mystery, right?
Ooh, okay.
And so we're in Stalingrad, Russia, so that there's a lot of corruption going on there. It starts off with a murder of a young girl. The detective that gets called, this is the day after New Year's, so he is half in the bag. He doesn't want to deal with it. He passes it off to his partner because he's just saying whatever. He goes, you could use a quick win here, right? Because at all intents and purposes, it just looks like a dead hooker. No one's going to care. And his partner's known for not solving cases because he's very thorough. And if you're very thorough, if you're a good cop, if you're a good detective in a very corrupt department, you're not going to solve a lot of cases, right? And so as he's digging into it, he goes, this is not as cut as dry as it looks. And it starts leading him down this rabbit hole. And you can see the cover up beginning, right? And how it's involving the KGB. So this pulled me right in, Nicholas. I was sucked in. I said, yes, this is everything that I love in a story. So Mad Cave, Sanction, issue 1, Ray Fox and Antonio Fuso. If you see it on your shelves, by the time you're listening to this and you're at your local comic book shop or you're going to your local comic book shop, grab it. You're gonna love it. It's fantastic.
And if nothing else, if you're listening to this after your new comic book day, and it's like, oh, I didn't think of this, I didn't think to look at it. This is why we dropped our episodes, our audio episodes at midnight. So make sure you have your audio device and listen to it on the way to your LCS. And also a word of advice too: don't be a petulant child like me. I let my inner kid, my negative inner kid, show up, and I got screwed. So,
but to your credit, because this happens to me all the time, art can definitely take you out of a story.
Yeah.
Right. If it's not your cup of tea, sometimes we can get past it. Sometimes we can't. Right. The art and all this stuff is subjective. Right?
1,000%. And I appreciate you saying that. And there are definitely times where that's going to happen. But in honesty, this is very much if that art had been on the cover, then I would have gone in with those expectations. Dan,
you fucked up on this one, Nicholas.
I did, yeah. Dan drew it. That's an amazing cover. I was gonna even though I was on the first few pages, I'm picking this up because that cover is just so fucking cool.
Cover, it's awesome.
It's badass, man. But anyways, you got another. Catch your breath, because you got another title from Mad Cave that you wanted to touch upon.
Yeah, I want to touch on this one as well. So this was we have When the Blood Has Dried. Now, issue 2 drops this week. And so issue 1 obviously dropped a month ago, but the writer hit me up on Twitter and said, hey, he was very nice. He was very kind. He said, I love what you guys do. Love, your talks with creators. I'm writing this book for Mad Cave. I'd love for you to check it out. And I said, sure. And so I've read the first 3 issues now, because he sent me the 3rd issue. Nicholas.
Oh, wow. You didn't tell. I'm just finding out that you got the 3rd issue now. Wow.
Oh, it hurts, doesn't it?
It's just the hypocrisy is what hurts.
Well,
that's all.
No, just fake news, Nicholas.
Big words, I know.
What I gotta tell you. So this is written by Gary Maloney, with art by Daniel Romero. This is a fantasy book, right? And I know you read the first issue already. So I went and read the first one, read the second. I haven't read the 3rd one yet, because I might save that for a video. I might do a right your first look or early look kind of thing for the 3rd issue. But what I loved about this book, Nicholas, is that it was very nostalgic for me. I know you're not a big prose guy, and there was a point in time where I did not like to read, right? As a lot of kids. Right. And I remember my dad making me read The Hobbit. Right. He's like, you're reading this book. I was in 5th grade, and that changed everything for me. Right. Read The Hobbit, and then never looked back. And that got me into fantasy books. And my dad reads everything. He's a voracious reader. But what he loves is these old paperback fantasy books, like from Del Rey, all these. There's 1,000 of these books written by, and there's one book that I always remember. It's called The Hunter's Haunt. I read it in middle school, just to, something you go to the bookstore, as a kid, you grab it, you read it, and you love it. So this has sort of reminded me of sort of those fantasy novels, I would read, as a kid. And so I remember talking to you about it, and you're like, yeah, I enjoyed it. Right. But I think you said it takes a little bit to kind of, build. And so we talk about pacing all the time. And if a book is not paced, well, it can really take you out.
Sure.
But this is one, because this is sort of how those old fantasy books are sort of written.
Nice.
It's layered and layered and layered and layered, and it gets there. And so I loved it. I loved the art. I love the storytelling. I loved, where it's going. The first issue definitely ends with a great cliffhanger. And then the second book, you're thinking to yourself, how is this character going to kind of get out of the situation? And they don't. They're just thrust right into it. And the way the second issue ends, right, and where it's going, I'm like, yes, I am all in. So, When the Blood Has Dried, issue 1 is already out. Issue 2, again, by the time you're listening, it's dropping on New Comic Book Day, May 15th. Check it out if you're into fantasy stories, if you're into fantasy comics, whatever. I think this book will be right in your wheelhouse. Love the main character, love all the characters, really. And it's just got that really cool there's the video game Dragon Age I really love, so it's got kind of that kind of feel to it as well. So this is just a great high fantasy story that if you're into that, you should definitely check it out.
Did the not the bartender, because that's the main character, but her did her companion feel familiar to you at all?
Fergus?
Yeah. Do you feel familiar at all?
A little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah,
I got no problem with that.
He gave her so much shit, and I'm like, this is me and fucking Joe right here. Unbelievable. All right. Awesome. Like I like that sold that very well. But we got to keep moving. So we got IDW, which is the last one we're talking about, which means Joe is talking about an IDW book. Thank fucking God. I'm so excited to hear about this book and to friggin' read it. But before we get there, TMNT, The Untold Destiny of the Foot Clan, issue 3, Star Trek, issue 20, Godzilla versus Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, volume 2, issue 2. Godzilla 70th anniversary, holy shit, issue 1, and then of course Mac's favorite title, My Little Pony Kentucky Roller Derby, issue 4. I think this is where we finally get to see Apple Bottom, but I'm not certain. But anyway, yeah. But without further ado, Joe, it is time to talk about a specific title from IDW that I've been dying for you to speak about in more detail.
This is, I think, the only other times where I've been this fast with a turnaround. It's been with an AWA book, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would have talked about this book last week, but issue 6 dropped last week, so I wanted it to breathe a little bit before I dove into it. And of course, we always do our best to stay spoiler free here. But Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees from IDW. This is written and drawn by Patrick Horvath, and letters by, you guess it, Hassan Otsman Alao. Synopsis: don't murder the locals. I feel like that should be, like Nick might have that, tattooed on the small of his back. It's a solid creed for anyone, right? It's like, first page on the Bible, right there. Boom, right? You can't miss it. This small town serial killer, upstanding citizen, and adorable brown bear Samantha's strong cardinal rule. After all, there's a sea of perfectly ripe potential victims in the big city just beyond the forest. And when you've worked as hard as Sam to build a cozy life and a thriving business in a community surrounded by friendly fellow animal folk, warm decor, and the aroma of cedar trees and freshly baked apple pie, the last thing you want is to disturb the peace. It's basically a beautiful, eloquent way of saying, don't shit where you eat.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's so I've talked about this time and time again. This is Berenstain Bears meets Dexter.
Right? Amazing. You don't need more than that. Like you genuinely don't.
So this is 6 issues, as I mentioned, and what I love about this, what really captivated me, one, there was some Twitter buzz about it. So I'm going to check this out, but I still had no idea what I was getting into. When I grabbed that first issue. Now, we don't get review copies from IDW, so I had the nice physical issue in my hand, and you start reading it, and the first, you're going through the first few pages, and it's not until about halfway through where you go from this being a picturesque Norman Rockwell type, vibe to Alfred Hitchcock, like that. Right.
Wow.
And the shift where that happens, it's a beautiful and brilliant way of doing this, where Patrick is showing, you're introduced to Samantha, the community, the idyllic town community that she's a part of. She owns her own hardware store. You're meeting some of these cute, wonderful, animals, creatures, characters. And then she announces that she's got some errands to do in the big city. Her employee Charlie, love Charlie, it's that he's going to run the store for the rest of the day. She's got appointments and whatnot, and you see her driving, and it's just the sequence of panels where you can see, like, it's showing the countryside in the background, the city in the foreground, and then it sort of zooms in up close, and you see this panel of through the windshield of Samantha. In one panel, she's smiling. In the next panel, same exact thing, but she has this menacing look. And then from there, it is just her. It's like watching Dexter, watching him pick his victim. Why? Not necessarily why, because there is no real why. It's just like, okay, that one. And being very careful, being very methodical. And then you see dismembering of that victim. And the way that she dismembers her victims is to cut them into little pieces, put those pieces into paint cans, and then bury those paint cans.
Oh,
wow. Right?
Okay.
So like, yeah. it is after, and that, Nicholas, is just the first issue, right?
Jesus.
And the way that built, the way that Patrick has written this character, it's like, here's the thing: he's made a completely sociopathic character that you root for, right?
Brilliant.
That you're like, okay, all right, yeah, he did some pretty awful things to that one duck looking dude, but you know what? As the story goes, you're like, oh shit, I hope she gets her comeuppance, right? And so it is so well executed because you really have this dichotomy in this first issue where you're introduced to this world, and it is Norman Rockwell, it is Berenstain Bears, it is picturesque, and then it gets really fucking dark. And then as she comes back home, it's like everything is, no one's the wiser. She fits right, she goes right back in to her normal daily life. And the way the first issue ends is that everyone's sort of getting ready for this big parade, right? This sort of town parade that happens every year. And as this one float is coming by, it's like sort of like a big sort of like, pirate ship sort of thing. The sail is dropped, and what is revealed but a dead body hanging up there. And the look of like, oh shit, this is not good for me because someone else is now, killing people. And that's going to bring undue attention into the town, which I don't need people sniffing around me. Not necessarily that they would, but like, that's the thing. Like,
Yeah.
oh shit, like, I've been doing my thing. I've been getting away with it for so long. Now people are going to be looking, for signs of a potential serial killer. And that could possibly, who knows where investigations can go. So that's the first issue. And that's sort of where the series goes from there. It's now like people start getting killed. And, how is that going to be, unveiled? Who's this killer? Because it's not Samantha, because she wasn't there. She was off killing someone else. And then just the way how then she gets it's so good,
Yeah.
Nicholas. It's so good. Like
That's a great
I
first
really
issue.
can't say much more. I'm
Sure.
not going to discuss characters outside of Samantha again because this is such an intricate story. I mentioned Charlie. Charlie works, but like those are just sort of like minor characters. But like as you read it, and you're introduced to these characters in the story, it is so well done. And what's really brilliant is when you read it the first time, right? Oh, you're just so fast and you're so pulled in. You're trying to like just kind of see where it's going and how it's going to end. But then when you reread it, you pick up on all the breadcrumbs, all the things that Patrick sort of wove into the story that you wouldn't have gotten the first time because you just don't know where the story is going. And so this is a great book to reread again. And it was just
That's special.
it's wonderfully drawn, it's wonderfully written, and pun intended here, he absolutely kills it. The pacing is spectacular. You're going to read this in one fell swoop in no time at all, and a week might go by, you're going to want to read it again because you're going to be thinking about it, and be like, oh, how did I, and then when you read it again, oh, how did I miss this? How did I miss that? Oh, it was all right there. And that's what's great when everything's right there and you don't see it the first time around and you go back and you read it and you go, oh man, that was so well done. So like this is like just like again, we talked about this with Tony Fleece and Trish Forstner, right? And what Tony's done with Dave Walker. You take these like cutesy animals, this little this little idyllic world, and you're able to make it one of the most vicious things you've ever seen, and you're just so gripped by it. That's what I love about this. Because like you might think, oh, how does the grisly murdery stuff does it seem out of place? No, it all fits, it all works together. This is such a damn good book, Nicholas.
I'm going to read this as fast as humanly possible. Like this is like I need to get on this. I've been dying to read it. I've been dying to hear about it more.
I think it's on Hoopla, and if you want to
Oh,
read it
wow.
before the trade comes out, I'm definitely buying the trade on this one for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And I have all the physical copies, but just for those, maybe
I
they'll
need to
have it.
buy the trade because the missus is going to read this thing too.
Oh, she's gonna love it.
Yeah, big
She's
Dexter fan,
gonna love it.
and it seems like her favorite comics are ones with like the cute animals, which
Yeah,
they tend to run into some things. But
but I did find the single issues on Hoopla for
oh,
those interested.
good to know. And this screams animated movie. Although I wouldn't be stunned if like a studio like an Amazon was like, yeah, this could be a movie, or there's maybe a way we could like turn this into like we could make some changes like without knowing the ending and whatnot, where they would want to make it into a show.
Well, much like Dexter, right? That would sort of be the approach, I think.
Mm.
Right? Like, I think this you could like it would obviously have to be animated. But this is I just I can't rave about this book enough. It is that damn good, and I will consume it any which way possible.
Yeah. Just so freaking good. I mean, and again, this is why we do this show because like this would have definitely like snuck under my radar. Wouldn't have.
Probably mine too, right? And I saw the buzz. This is the importance of getting the signal out there, through the socials, following different accounts. Just things you never know is going to come across your timeline. This, because I wasn't, I had no idea who Patrick Horvath was before this, right? And
Mhm.
I just saw someone tweet about it, and I saw the cover of the first issue. And I go, huh, that looks interesting,
Hmm.
and then picked it up and never looked back.
Nice. Yeah, it's amazing when that kind of stuff happens. Speaking of staying on top of or following other accounts, make sure you stay up to date. We found out last week that Revival from Image Comics is going to be turned into a show on Sci-Fi, and it's funny because the writer on this is Tim Seeley, the artist is Mike Norton, colors by Mark Englert, and then letters by Crank. But we have Seeley, who's the writer of this series and co-creator. And then I saw Michael Morisi, who is the co-writer of Dick Tracy, and then the writer of co-creator of Barbaric. Like he's writing on the show, so it's like you have another voice that I trust in comics, who's going to be taking care of this in some capacity too. I don't know Seeley's involvement, but awesome. Anytime we're seeing an indie title get a chance, whether it's on the big screen or in show format, seeing this on Sci-Fi, I'm going to be giving this a look. This is 47 issues. So there's a lot to check out. This ran from 2012 to 2017. There are 8 trades. It's also available in compendium form. It is available on Hoopla that you mentioned that, so you can check all that out there. The first season of the show, it looks like it's scheduled for 2025. So, I don't think we have any strikes coming up on the horizon. So it should be on pace. And also another note too, you and I, when we were at C2E2, we caught this DC panel where it was like people talking about like breaking in the industry and everything. And Seeley was part of that panel. Tim Seeley and Chip Zdarsky stole the show. They were so freaking funny throughout that whole panel.
Yeah, they were they were great because that's just their nature, right? We've had the pleasure of talking with Chip a few times on the show, so we've and just through his writing, you got to know his style and Tim, right? We talked about the Tim Seeley bingo,
Yep.
and we got to meet him in Chicago as well, and that very much, I think, his writing, his personality comes through in his writing, and they're just really good storytellers. So when they were up there just sort of talking about they're breaking into the industry, it was very personable, very very just very well told.
Yeah, 100%. In the course of that, we learned that Jenny Frison was actually a student of Tim Seeley's, and he helped her get her start, not just as a teacher, but just in general. I don't know if it was on Revival, but she did all the covers for Revival. So that's a pretty cool collector's item if you have those today. But either way, on all the trades, you're going to see her art there, and the compendium if you decided to pick that up instead. As for the synopsis, I mean, right away as I looked into this show, honestly, when I saw the cover for the first issue, I was like, oh, okay, I can see like this is going to be pretty badass. And then, but right away, it's like I totally see how this is a show, and I'll get into it more as we go along. But the synopsis: for one day in rural central Wisconsin, the dead come back to life. Now it's up to Officer Dana Cypress to deal with the media scrutiny, religious zealots in government quarantine that has come with them. In a town where the living have to learn to deal with those who are supposed to be dead, Officer Cypress must solve a brutal murder, and everyone, alive or undead, is a suspect. Now that's the synopsis for the first issue. I don't want to go too far. There are a few different ways that it could be sliced, but I feel like that gives you a really good feel for what you're jumping into. Still kind of encompasses it in a larger sense. But again, that is the first issue. So Detective Dana Cypress is the officer, however you want to put it. She is your lead character, and she's a single mom, and she's someone that always needs to prove herself to her father, because her father not only has a favorite between his children, he also is her boss. So it's just like you're dealing with a lot there. He is the sheriff of the town, Sheriff Cypress. In the town that we're in is Wassaw County. Then we have her younger sister, Martha Cypress, also known as M, who she's I don't know how much younger they are, but it seems like there's a somewhat significant age gap. Mary Tao, who is the journalist that broke the revival story, and I'll touch on that in a second. And then another character that's a major player, Ibrahim Rahman. He's a member of the CDC who was sent to this town, Wassaw, which is actually a town in Wisconsin, to help deal with the revival event. Those are just, 5 characters that I mentioned. There's plenty more that we get introduced to. Of course, we're talking about 47 issues, but that's one of the big things that really jumped out to me right away is in this first issue, like we're getting invested in Dana Cypress and the plot of it all, like what's happened. And obviously it's a big deal, but we're introduced to all these people who can serve as potential like key players. And I was really impressed by that from Tim Seeley. And it's like, this is going to be like, I hope when this gets turned into a show, I'm sure they're going to make their changes and whatnot, but this is something that you don't need to mess around with a whole heck of a lot. You have something here. Tim and Mike have done a lot of the groundwork, and it's great. Like, so it very much showed me just as I was reading it, and getting to know these characters. And on top of that too, like the plot, very interesting. And the way it's introduced, I don't want to say it specifically because as much as it happens in the first issue, I will say Mary Tao is the one who like is very much is involved with it, or one of the people that's involved with it. But the way it's introduced in this first issue, it's like, this is perfect. Like, again, you should just pull this from the comic and do it in the show. Don't change things up. It makes too much sense. That's the thing. Like with what Seeley did here and Mike Norton, like it feels real in a lot of ways too. And like part of that has to do with Mike Norton's art style too. Like it combined with Englert's colors, like it's a very grounded story in a lot of ways, as much as you're dealing with a situation where it's like you basically have like zombies, but they're also kind of human, but they're also kind of questionable when you can't trust them. So I just, in the action that you get again in like the first issue, like the way it ends, like we didn't read this when it was ongoing as 2012, like, but we would have been in right away. Like the first issue was great, but then you get to the very end and it's like, well, all right then. Like the tone has been set, the violence, we know how high it's going to go. And just like the little twist that we get at the end, it's like, all right. And the way Tim plays with that throughout is friggin' awesome. And then too, on top of that, like this, where I say it feels grounded, like this is gonna feel very of the moment for people because whole event becomes extremely polarizing within this world, because it's like, I mean, the dead have risen, and they're not zombies, they're like actual humans, they have memories of what happened, and they're, most of them are functioning human beings, so it's like, what does this mean? Like, so now you're bringing in, like, people who, like, the scientific side, the religious side, and just like it all like starts boiling very quickly, and it's just I'm reading this, and I'm reading it like thinking of, like, just enjoying it, but I'm also like now knowing it's going to be a show. I'm like, I, I don't know how this wasn't made a show sooner. Quite honestly,
That sounds fantastic. I love that concept that they're back and they're not like me know that not real money, you know. Like that they have memories of their lives beforehand and they're a part of the community. Like that's brilliant. That's an absolutely brilliant idea, and this sounds absolutely fantastic.
There may be a couple people that are like Gronk. Maybe we should check his birth certificate. Is he from Buffalo or is he from Wausau, Wisconsin? Maybe, you know what, Gronk? Maybe we finally found a role we can cast you in.
Right.
Stop doing your job, as Coach said, and maybe this is what you should do. Oh man, that'd be funny. That would be funny if you just do you, Gronk. Do what you do.
Yeah,
and just,
We'll just put a little makeup on you, but yeah, just be you.
100%. But yeah, you know what? Speaking of makeup too, like part of like there is an image when you give this a look, Joe, in that first issue, like with the revival and everything we've done, there is one specific like individual that's gonna fucking haunt your dreams for a little bit too.
Okay.
But by and large, this is not something that I think you're gonna have to read at night. So it is very accessible to people, but again, it is very violent. But that one image that I'm thinking of now, it's like, whoo, that thing was like when I saw it, I was like, wait, what the fuck is going on? Like I knew what I was walking into, but clearly didn't fully know what the hell was going on. So yeah, like Revival, definitely check it out. You guys got plenty of time to read this whole thing before it comes out in Sci-Fi. And look, obviously we're not big into spoiling stuff, but at the same time, like I will always encourage people, like, read the comic before you see the show, because some changes will be made and it's still so much fun to read it beforehand. And it's just like reading a book beforehand. And like so yeah, and I feel like with comics too, you know, Marvel and DC are doing their own thing, but I feel like with indie titles, it is easier to kind of stay to what is done within the actual comic. Cause like people like this is what worked, and versus prose where Harry Potter, you have to go. I know exactly where you're going before you go there. You like with Harry Potter or like Lord of the Rings, you have to cut out so much stuff. Like they're talking about the new Lord of the Rings movie. You have to pull so much out because it's like you can't fit it in like a 3-hour movie. Like only Zack Snyder would try and do that kind of shit. So with it, like with comics though, it's definitely easier to do that.
It's easier as long as you stay somewhat true to the source material and not completely change it at all.
I don't know.
Looking at you,
but that's still like as much as like Vertigo, it's still DC. Like so, it's still like I feel like with other stuff you don't run into that quite as much.
Yeah, and it is because there also isn't like an arc of a comic book is not a 600, 700, 800 page book.
Yeah,
right,
100%. So much easier.
So you can take that arc and you can even add stuff, whatever. But it's easier to condense that down into a movie or a 4, 5, 6, 8 episode show, whatever, without really butchering the source material.
Yeah, and one other note too, I didn't even touch upon this, but like we talked about how pacing can be so important for a book. You have so many different characters that like it's kind of like in Saga where things like can bounce around very quickly throughout the course of an issue, and you just breeze through it. Revival is very much like that. Like you just bing bang boom. Like you'll have like 3 or 4 characters that are center of it. Like, excuse me, Dana's usually at the center of each issue. I feel like she is at every issue. But like with everybody else that they're trying to put the focus on, it's just you bounce around really quickly. So this is good. Like you guys will sit down and read a volume of this fairly quickly.
Love that. Absolutely love that.
And that is it for TLDR 98. We're closing in on 100, but may take a while for us to get there. But you never know. But that is why you subscribe to our audio channels. You can watch us all you want. Please do. But subscribe to our audio channels because it's the only place you're going to find our Friar side chats, our conversations with creators across the industry. Leave a 5-star rating and review while you subscribe there. Otherwise, you're going to learn the real meaning of Backrack. I'm saying it twice because obviously this episode has been all over the place. A very emotional episode because various reasons. But Joe, until next week, stay sexy.
You know it. God, you know.